Okay, before we go into the questions, one thing I want to say, I heard some people are getting very worried and worked up about all of the numbers. How am I going to remember 46 of these, 55 of those, 13 of these, 12 of those, 24 of these? My advice is don't be too concerned about the numbers. I think it's important to understand sort of the principles that underlie the Abhidhamma system. The numbers are, because they use a finite number of chittas and a finite number of chaitasikas and a finite number of material phenomena. So then when they take the different combinations and permutations, you get these fixed numbers. But I think the original intention of the Abhidhamma was not to, lay down numerical schemes that you have to memorize, but to show what are the essential principles to understand in the working of consciousness. Okay, so with that, we could open the floor to questions, anything on any subject that was covered today. Again, I have to mention the 3 rules in asking questions. One is to stand up and speak clearly and distinctly. Second, keep the question relevant to the subject that was covered today, the subjects. And third, ask a question, don't give your own lecture. Okay, Ravi first, Henry second, and your name?
Reza.
Reza, okay. So 1, 2, 3, then 4.
Thank you, Bhante. I'm Ravi Karnaratna. Bhante, my question is, in Buddhism, they say that the mind is 3 things.
Okay.
That is chitta, mano, and vijnana.
Yeah.
How does that compare with this Abhidhamma concept of the mind in Abhidhamma?
Okay.
Is it in conflict, or is it...
No, there's certainly no conflict.
Thank you.
Okay, so the question is that in the suttas, when speaking about mind, 3 Pali words are used: mano, chitta, vijnana. And the way these terms, and then the question is, how does the use of these terms relate in the Abhidhamma? Now in the suttas, these terms are considered to be synonymous, but they're used in somewhat different contexts. So when the Buddha is speaking about acts of, we call it sense cognition, through the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or mind, then he uses the word vijnana, particularly in relation to the 5 aggregates. So the 5th aggregate is the aggregate of consciousness, vijnana khandha. And then we have the 6 types of vijnana: chakku vijnana, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mano vijnana, mind consciousness. So that is generally the way the word vijnana is used. The word mano, also translated mind, is used in 2 main contexts. One is 3 doors of action. So we have action of body, action of speech, action of mind. In that case, it's mano kamma, or mano sucharita, good conduct of mind, or mano ducharita, bad conduct of mind. The other context in which the word mano is used is in regard to the 6 faculties. So we have the eye faculty, ear faculty, nose faculty, tongue faculty, body faculty, and manindriya, the mind faculty. So that's like the 6th sense, is the mind. Then the word citta is generally used to indicate what I would call the center of the personality, like it's the citta which gets defiled, covered over by defilements. It's the citta which has to be trained and tamed. It's the citta that has to be purified, the citta that's liberated. So the terms are considered synonymous. The terms are considered synonymous, but they're used in different contexts. Okay, what the Abhidhamma does is generally it takes as its focus point the word citta. So citta comes to play the dominant role in the Abhidhamma, because what the Abhidhamma does is to sort of take as the subject of its investigation the cittas that arise on different occasions, and then it looks into these cittas to determine what factors are present in those cittas. In other words, what are the chaitasikas that occur in those cittas? What is the function of those cittas? Through what plane or sphere do these cittas belong to? And so it takes citta to be like the primary subject of investigation. But we should remember that citta, mano, and vijnana in the Abhidhamma are pretty much synonymous. But even still in the Abhidhamma, even when they refer to the types of sense consciousness, then they refer to them as the pancha vijnana, the 5 types of sense consciousness. Okay, I said, okay, Ravi was first, Henry was next, yeah.
Hi, Bhante, it's Henry. I just want to ask a general question about the function. There are 17 steps, right, from the rebirth, adverting until registration.
Yeah.
Can you give me a general comment on, for example, Javana has 7 steps, like 7 times.
Yeah.
How this, in terms of speed and time, it seems to be
how they what?
The time moment, these moments, how were they determined? And this seems to be a very biological process.
Yeah.
Right. So can you give a general comment where they come from and how do we verify, how do we experience it?
Tomorrow we're going to deal with the citta viti, that is the process of cognition. And so I think your question is really more relevant to tomorrow's topic than today's. So if I don't answer to your satisfaction tomorrow, then bring the question up again. But if I answer now, then I'll anticipate too much of what's going to be said tomorrow. Okay. Razev, is that the?
Yeah. Yesterday we were looking at this line graph thing on page 155, and you talk about there being the averting and to the sense object, and then eye consciousness and receiving, investigating, determining, and the jhavanas.
Yeah.
And the jhavanas is where the wholesomeness or unwholesomeness gets kind of decided.
Yeah.
At that time, I think you said that the eye consciousness was kind of like stupid. It was just a registering of the kind of facts.
Yeah, yeah.
I think today, though, we were talking about, I remember at least with ear consciousness that it could be wholesome or not wholesome already? Or
No.
Is that different? Or?
No. And the eye consciousness, ear consciousness, the 5 types of sense consciousness are neither wholesome nor unwholesome themselves. They are classified as wholesome resultant, unwholesome resultant, which doesn't mean that it's wholesome or unwholesome, but rather it is a result of the wholesome or a result of the unwholesome. Do you get that?
So that would be result from the previous?
The result of what?
Result from what?
The 5 types of sense consciousness are results which arise as a result of previous karma. And so if it's an unwholesome karma that's generating, say, the I consciousness, then we call this I consciousness unwholesome resultant I consciousness, which means not that that the I consciousness is unwholesome, but rather it's a result of unwholesome karma.
So where is that in that line on table 4.1?
On page 155?
Yeah.
No, it's not shown there, but it just comes through the description and explanation of those types of chittas. Let me see if I could find where it comes in the book. Probably it comes in chapter 1. Okay, this will be of course you're using the English version. It's page 41, and it's chapter 1. It comes in the guide to section number 8. And we have in bold, there's I consciousness. Oh, I'm sorry. It would actually be better to take it from on page 40 in the explanatory guide, where you go down unwholesome resultant consciousness. So it says here, the first category of rootless consciousness comprises the 7 types of consciousness that result from unwholesome karma. These types of consciousness are not themselves unwholesome, but karmically indeterminate, neither wholesome nor unwholesome. The word unwholesome here means that they are resultants produced by unwholesome karma. The word qualifies not these states of consciousness themselves, but the karma from which they are born. Yeah, does that make it clear? Part of the way. Let's see if there's anything more. Okay, anyway, then where it says I consciousness, the first 5 types of resultant consciousness in both classes, the unwholesome resultants and the wholesome resultants, are those that are based on the sensitive matter of eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body. So these are collectively called the 2 sets of 5-fold sense consciousness. I hope that makes it clear. If there's anything unclear, then just ask. Excuse me? Okay. And now yin, okay.
Yeah, Bante. On page 144, I remember you said this afternoon that the heart base doesn't refer to the physical heart.
Yeah.
Right? However, on the paragraph of analysis of bases, if you look at the 3rd line, a base is a physical support for the occurrence of consciousness.
Yeah.
Right. And on page 145, the first line, the commentaries, however, subsequently specify that matter to be the heart base, a cavity situated within the physical heart. I really have difficulties to accept this, right? If my language is too bold or radical, please forgive me. So I totally disagree.
Disagree?
Right. There are millions scientific evidence that demonstrated that the brain is the base for consciousness. I gave you an example. For instance, how about a person undertook heart transplant?
Oh, that's
right?
a very good example.
He still, or she could still recognize his family,
Yeah.
right? His previous surroundings.
Yeah.
He didn't, or she didn't completely change.
Yeah, but that's not
So-
true. There's evidence that heart transplant people that get their heart, they actually take on the habits of liking new things that they never did before.
Is that so?
Riding bicycle, drinking beer. So
Right.
it's much more complicated than that.
It does, it does. However, when we look
Brain is
at
not
the
the
facts, when we
Right.
look at facts, we need to be,
Yeah.
we need to not to be selective, to select intentionally,
Yeah.
intentionally select the evidence, support your
Yeah.
hypothesis.
Yeah.
We have to look at the broader
Yeah.
spectrum,
Yeah.
the all evidence.
Okay, anyway, this is sort of the opinion of the commentators of the Abhidhamma who are living in 2nd century, 3rd century. And so this is their opinion.
It is.
It could be based to some extent on the meditative experience.
It is. For instance, I hope my question is not too long. For instance, someone this afternoon mentioned the experience of first jhana.
Yeah.
I feel the heart beating or something like that. However, it's not the heart itself feels
Yeah.
that experience.
Wait, I'm not quite sure I understand.
Just for instance, you said, for instance, a cheetah
Yeah.
itself cannot examine itself.
At the same
Right.
time.
Right, at the same time,
exactly the same moment.
simultaneously.
Yeah.
It has to be something else,
Right.
another cheetah.
Yeah.
Same thing applies here.
Yeah.
So it's not the heart itself,
Yeah.
no, sense itself is
Yeah.
beating. or
Okay,
it's-
anyway,
it's-
the original Abhidhamma text doesn't specify the heart base, but it says simply that matter on the basis of which mind and mind consciousness occur. I think I quoted it. Yeah, at the bottom of page 144. In the canonical Abhidhamma, the heart base is not expressly mentioned. A work called the Patana, that's the last book of the Abhidhamma Pitaka, simply speaks of that matter in dependence on which the mind element and mind consciousness element occur. The commentaries, however, subsequently specify that matter to be the heart base, and then they say this is a cavity situated within the heart. So, if you're not satisfied with the heart base, then just take what the canonical Abhidhamma says, that there's some matter, material organ, on the basis of which mind and mind consciousness occur. It could be, the whole nervous system, including the brain. In fact, we probably know so little about the functioning of the brain that it's, still, a big area for investigation. Okay. Wait, let us take Edwin. Is it Edmund? Edmund?
Thank you, Bhante. This isn't really my question. My question is not even related, but I will comment that I am very much in sympathy with the young lady and with the original context of the Abhidhamma,
Yeah.
and not so much with a physical heart.
Yeah.
If you view it as a function rather than anatomy, then I think it's medically very clear. But let me, what I really am curious about, and I've wondered about this for some time, what is the linkage between the Chittas and the Chittasikas? I understand that Chittasika arises almost instantaneously with the Chitta.
Exactly instantaneously.
That's
Not
what I mean.
almost, yeah.
Okay, exactly instantaneously. What is the linkage? I mean, is it a resultant type of linkage? Is it a sort of a mechanical one-to-one or a one-to-many or many-to-one relationship? What determines the mental factor which arises with a particular citta?
Okay, this is a good question, but this is the question from Abhidhamma 101.
But I wasn't here.
Yeah, not that it's more elementary, it's just that it's taken up in chapter 2, which we did last year. Okay, but just to answer very briefly, okay, when the citta arises, taking citta just in the narrowest sense of the mind, it always arises together with a particular cluster or grouping of mental factors that have their own specific functions to perform. Now, different cittas will take different groups of chaitasikas. 7 of them are considered universal, that they're present in every citta. That is mental contact with the object, feeling, perception, volition, 4, attention, mental life faculty, and then one-pointedness of mind or mental focus. So these are 7 universals. Then there are certain factors that sometimes arise that are not determined as either wholesome or unwholesome, beautiful or unwholesome, but sometimes they arise, sometimes they don't arise. Then there's another cluster of mental factors that are unwholesome, that arise only in the unwholesome cittas. Then there's another cluster of chaitasikas which are beautiful, and so when they arise in the wholesome cittas, they are wholesome. When they arise in the resultant cittas, they're resultant beautiful. When they arise in the functional cittas of the arhat, they are considered functional, beautiful functional chaitasikas. Excuse me?
Relationship, that's maybe he's
wow.
asking.
Wow, so you know the Patana terms. Okay, so he's referring to the conditional relations between the citta and the chaitasikas. What the Abhidhamma Sangaha says first, it says that the citta and the chaitasikas have simultaneous arising, simultaneous cessation. They have the same object and the same base, the same vatu. That is, if a citta arises based on the eye, the chaitasikas are based on the eye. If a citta arises based on the ear, nose, tongue, or body, the chaitasikas are based on the ear, nose, tongue, or body. If the citta arises based on the heart, or if you want the brain, doesn't matter, then the chaitasikas arise based on either the heart or the brain. Okay, what is your name?
My name is Wu Jiang.
Wu Jiang.
My question actually follows up Raz's question. We learned from you there are 2 types of eye consciousness,
Yeah.
wholesome and unwholesome.
Resultant, yeah.
Wholesome resultant and
Yeah.
unwholesome resultant. So my question is, are these sufficient to categorize our experiences? For example, if we look into the river and we look into the river only, does it produce unwholesome eye consciousness or wholesome eye consciousness? Because the river is just a river runs through it.
I'm not quite sure that I...
So if we just look at a river,
Looking at a river.
Oh,
I see.
and then what kind of eye consciousness
see.
arises?
I see. Yeah, so the question is like, if you're just looking at a completely neutral object,
Yeah.
or just looking at a wall, why should there be an unwholesome resultant or a wholesome resultant?
Or whether there is neither wholesome nor
Yeah.
unwholesome.
I have to say, this is a problem. I'm also aware of. And I don't know the answer to that. No. It seems that I don't see how, something which is just completely indifferent. I'm walking down the path here, I'm just looking at the road. It's nothing very beautiful, nothing very disturbing at the road. It's just, something that's just coming into my awareness. Why should there be an unwholesome resultant or a wholesome resultant? Yeah. I don't know.
Right. Thanks anyway.
Yeah. Okay, Sam has a question.
Bhavanga, in between death and rebirth, there's the Bhavanga. And is it one continuing?
In between death and rebirth, or between
death
rebirth and death?
Well, when you did the countdown earlier and you reached the end,
yeah.
Well, you're dead, right? So before you're reborn, the Bhavanga is there. Is there one Bhavanga that connects the two?
Okay, actually this opens up what you might call a disputed question amongst the Buddhist schools.
Because I have a follow-up just in case.
Okay. One of the questions or issues that divided the early Buddhist schools was the question, is rebirth simultaneous? So that right after the death consciousness, immediately, the next split second, there occurs the rebirth consciousness to start the new existence? Or is there some temporal gap between the occasion of death and the arising of the rebirth consciousness in the new existence? The official position of the Theravada commentaries sort of they seem to base it on the Abhidhamma, is that rebirth follows immediately upon the death consciousness. I have to say very frankly, though I'm Theravadan in training and ordination, I find some problems with that. So I tend to lean towards the position that there is some temporal gap between the death and rebirth, because I have my reasons for this. One is based on reasoning, that it seems to me that, okay, a person dies, they have like certain karmic potentialities. Now, it would be almost astonishing to me that there would be say they're going to be reborn in the human world, that there would be a couple who have all of the conditions, the right conditions for that being to take rebirth, who are maybe have had sexual relations just shortly before that being passed away. And so as soon as the egg becomes viable, immediately that person dies and then takes rebirth the next split second. It just doesn't seem so logical to me. It seems more logical that, there has to be some time for the right conditions to appear. And so then the being would be existing in some kind of intermediate state. So that's one reason, which is based on, I say that's based on reasoning. Another support for this, for the time gap, there are cases that have been sort of recorded by investigators of people who have, usually this happens in children, who have memories of their previous life and who can remember passing away, and then they describe what happened after they passed away. They say that they felt themselves sort of becoming like a spirit detached from the body. And then they found themselves sort of floating, or their consciousness floating up to the room and looking down at their dead body. Then they see their relatives, maybe the mother, father come in, brothers and sisters. They look at the dead body, they start crying, and they are there. Sometimes they're trying to make contact and saying, I'm here, but it's not getting through. And then they even report attending their own funeral, they see, the coffin being brought to the cemetery or the cremation ground, and they observe this. Then at a certain point, after the body has been disposed of, they find themselves moving around with no clear sense of time, no spatial obstructions, until at a certain point they find themselves attracted to a particular couple. And then they hang around that couple until the couple have sexual relations. Then they find their consciousness drawn into the couple, and then they go blank until the next thing they know, they've come out into the world as a baby.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we'll take the gentleman behind you. What is your name? Paul. Okay.
In the suttas, it's regularly spoken of with the sense doors that there's 6 sense doors.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now, in the Abhidhamma, it seems like they're specifically outlining the 5 sense doors, but when they speak of the mind, they don't. Are they referencing it as a sense door as well?
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Abhidhamma?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called the mind door, and
Right.
it's functioning as a sense door
Okay.
for the mind door processes of consciousness.
And not to beat a dead horse here, but with the heart,
Yeah.
is, having the base
Yeah.
of the mind consciousness. Some folks who are studying neuroscience may be familiar with the polyvagal theory.
Polyvagal?
Polyvagal, and vagal comes from the word vagus, which is the nerve that innervates the heart.
Mm.
And what's very interesting about this is that not only does it innervate the heart, but it also innervates the stomach as well.
Mm.
And some of the neuroscientists are calling this a 6th sense.
Mm.
So, which is pretty interesting that's happening. Another
How is the poly part spelled?
P-O-L-Y.
Oh, I see. I see poly, and
Yeah,
that's
because it's not only the heart that it's innervating, but it's called the vagabond.
yeah.
So it's innervating many. So that's interesting. That could be a physical potential component of the consciousness. Now, with Vedana, you spoke of today that there's the mental feelings, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's physical feelings.
Yeah.
And from a practice question,
Yeah.
or I should say for my own self, I do feel the difference at times between mental feelings in the body versus just physical sensations or feelings in the body. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Could you talk a little bit about that? Is that described accurately, that you can feel or tease out the two in the body experience itself?
Well, what I would say, the way, or at least the way I would say based on the Abhidhamma, is that the feelings that are occurring in the body itself, that are sort of based on the body sensitivity, are either the painful or pleasant bodily feelings.
Right.
But the mind responds to these feelings, and so these would be the mental feelings of what the Abhidhamma has is either joy or displeasure or sadness, displeasure. So those, even though they're based on the body, or it could be based on any of the other senses, but these are coming through the mental response to the bare sensation. And so one way in which this works sort of in practical training is that one can train the mind so that one doesn't respond automatically and sort of instinctively to the feelings that come to the body. Say when one is sitting in meditation, after some time one starts to get pain in the legs, in the buttocks. So because of these pains that are arising, then one could start to feel, angry or upset or discouraged. And these will be emotions that are accompanied by the feeling of displeasure. But by training to observe the feeling as it's arising and passing away, then one could be observing it with one of the beautiful citas accompanied by equanimity, the wholesome sense sphere citas accompanied by equanimity. So while there's bodily pain occurring, in the mind, there's the feeling of equanimity.
Yes. Okay.
And similarly, if like blissful feelings arise through the meditation, then instead of just, getting carried away and attached to them, then one just observes them, and then one replaces that attachment to the joy with equanimity.
Good, thank you. And it's always helpful, I think, when we can, to try to relate the Abhidhamma back to the practice itself.
Okay.
Bhante, in relation to the transplant, I believe, from my understanding, the back of the heart is kept.
The what?
The back of the heart is kept. The arteries and veins are not detached. So they attach the muscular part of the heart to the body. They take the heart from someone who's brain dead and attach the muscular part. The back of the heart with the arteries and veins going in is kept intact.
I see.
Because just to let you know.
Okay.
The other thing is, Bhante, there is a term, Gandharva or something that is used in Buddhism.
Yeah.
Is that a Theravada term or is it?
It comes in the Pali Canon.
Yeah, because that I thought is in between the death and life.
Yeah, it seems actually that.
Thank you.
Well, this relates back to Sam's question. Okay, comes in Majjhima Nikaya Sutta number 38, and then another one, I think it's 93, that the Buddha speaks about 3 conditions for reconception to take place. One is that a man and a woman have to have sexual intercourse. Then the woman has to be the woman's fertile period. And then the third, those are sort of 2 natural conditions that we're familiar with. The third condition, though, is, he says, the presence of something called the Gandhabba. This is, I have to bring my dog chain with me whenever I, woof, woof. The Pali word is Gandhabba. In Sanskrit, it's Gandharva, which usually that word is used to mean like the celestial musicians, or else kinds of deities that live around trees and flowers. But here, as it seems to be used in a special sense of, it seems to be indicating that kind of, maybe call it the floating spirit of a person who has previously passed away and has been waiting for the opportunity to take rebirth. Okay, with trepidation, I don't feel any hesitation about asking any question, no matter.
Excuse me, it's not a question, it's just respond to Paul's hypothesis he just mentioned. I can tell you for sure that I know something of neuroscience, and that hypothesis doesn't represent the mainstream of neuroscience research. And if someone say, oh, there's some nerves going through the physical heart, go all the way down to the organs in your lower abdomen. It's not surprising. It's nerves. We have nerves connects everywhere. So it's nothing new. So, and I don't think that can really,
okay, I'll let you two battle
any evidence.
Battle it out.
Still, the heart base is material, physical support for the consciousness. So whoever say you take out muscular heart, it's still muscular is material, physical heart.
But also you have to remember what the Abhidhamma commentators call the heart base. It's, as I said in the afternoon, it's not the physical heart itself, but it's supposed to be a subtle kind of material substance that is situated in or around the heart.
I saw that.
I mean, we had 89 cheetahs today.
Okay, thank you.
We had, how many? 14 functions. So many types of objects, doors. Let's not get hung up on just one item, the heart base. Yeah. Okay, any further questions? Okay, Pridvu? Yeah.
On page 136, on page 136 and one on page 137. Thank you.
Okay, that's page 136, okay. 137.
First, on page 136, line 22nd.
Okay, let me just tell the section so that our Chinese translator will know. Yes. This is chapter 3, section 17. Okay.
On the page line 22, that is above 17 classification. Line 72 reads, okay, let me start. Chitta is also a type of mental object.
Right.
Though chitta experiences object, chitta in turn can become an object. It should be noted that a chitta in its immediacy cannot become its own object.
Yeah.
For the cognizer cannot cognize itself. But a chitta in an individual, this is the actual question comes, but a chitta in an individual mental continuum can experience earlier chittas in that same continuum as well as chittas of other beings.
Yeah.
Here when you say mental continuum, I'm taking it as in the chitta vidhi, those say.
No, not in the chitta vidhi, but it will be in the whole stream of individual consciousness. Say, in my own case, say it would be the flow of consciousness within myself. So if I get, say, angry, then I recognize that anger. So it's actually what is recognizing the anger are chittas. These are javana chittas occurring in one chitta viti, which are recognizing angry chittas that occurred in an earlier chitta viti, but that earlier chitta viti or process could have occurred like just a split second ago, because these processes are succeeding each other extremely quickly. So it seems like I'm observing the anger in my own mind right now, but it could have been just, a split second ago. But it would have been in an earlier chitta viti, not in the same one in which I'm observing it. Yeah, and the reason for this is that observation, say the mindful observation of my own mind, that would be occurring in a series of jhavanas, which would be wholesome sense sphere jhavanas with knowledge, I think. And the angry chittas will be occurring in a chitta viti, a cognitive process. Those would be occurring in the jhavana stage of an earlier chitta viti. And those angry chittas will be chittas which are accompanied by aversion. So they're different, mutually exclusive types of chittas occurring in the jhavana stage. So it can't be in the same chitta viti.
Okay. So one chitta viti finishes, and then it goes to bhavanga.
Yeah.
And then another chitta viti comes and then cognizes it.
Yeah. Okay. And there's a whole series. This is all said to be occurring so very, very quickly.
Right. Okay.
But this is what we'll be dealing with tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, tomorrow we take up the Chitta Viti.
Okay, next
Okay.
Sentence, next page. Sorry, can you hold it? This is an object presented to the last cognitive process. Let me find out the line. Okay, 37. Object of the mind or consciousness. The chittas that arise in a mind or process can cognize any of the 5 physical sense objects as well as all types of mental objects inaccessible to the chittas in sense door process.
Yeah.
Now, the chitta, the mental mind or consciousness really does it cognize the visual object by itself, or has to process through the visual sensor before it takes on? The
Okay.
mind consciousness
Yeah.
cannot really see a visual object without the intermediary step before that, visual consciousness.
Yeah,
Or visual
yeah.
door.
The mind consciousness can't cognize a visible object
Right.
unless that visible object has gone through an I-door cognitive process.
So the sentence gives a meaning.
You have to put the microphone
The
in.
sentence on 137, when you say the chittas that arise in a mind door process
Yeah.
can cognize any of the 5 physical sense objects as well as all types of mental objects, might be giving slightly different. There is a room for wrong understanding for me in that.
Let me just take another look at this. Wait, let me just.
137.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
If you say after
I see you are
modified-
taking inaccessible to the chittas in the sense door process and also connecting it with the 5 physical sense objects. But it should be connected only with all
after-
types of mental objects. Do you see
Oh,
the
no.
point?
No. Say it again, sir. Could you say it again?
Let me explain it rather than try to
Okay.
disentangle the sentence. Okay, the chittas that arise in a mind or process can cognize any of the 5 physical sense objects. That is, after one has seen a form with the eye, then the mind or process can follow, and then one cognizes that same visible form with a mind or process. The example that I gave in the afternoon, okay, I'm looking at this carton, so it's an eye consciousness process that first takes in the blue color, and then a mind or process recognizes this and identifies, that is blue. Okay, so here the mind or process is dependent. In order to cognize blue, it depends on a previous eye door process, right? In order to identify a tune, I have to hear the tune first with the ear consciousness, and then the mind consciousness will sort of synthesize the different notes of the tune and then recognize it. That is
Right.
Ode to Joy, whatever.
I understood that, but the sentence may be, there is a possibility of a wrong understanding in it, saying that it cognizes the physical senses as well as, it cognizes the physical, it cognizes the physical bodies as well as the 5 objects. If you say it cognizes the 5 objects after being through the
5 doors.
Okay, anyway, it's pretty late in the day to change the wording. I could see where you have a misunderstanding there.
Bante,
Yeah.
我想请问你一个问题哈，就是说你今天在125页，中文课本的125页有提到一个，你说当人临命终的时候，基于其过去的业与当时的情况，由某个目标就会呈现他最后一个的心路过程。那这个心路过程里面有分3个，就是一个业跟业相。讲太快了。
我听了，可是我听不懂。
那怎么办？
有一个人不可以对他翻译。
Her question is, when a person is on the verge of dying, and they are, you mentioned there are 3, like a karma and karma sign and the sign of destination.
Right.
That's what she said up to this point.
那有3个，一个是业，一个是业相跟去相。
Okay, so it's karma, the sign of the karma and the destination. The sign of the destination.
那这个业相里面，你有提到说，当一个虔诚的信徒可能会看到比丘或寺院的影像。
And in the karma nimitta, you mentioned a devout Buddhist might see the sign of temple or a monk.
Right.
那医生呢，可能会看到病人的影像。
And a doctor might be able to see the sign of a patient.
Yeah.
那屠夫会看到，会听到宰杀牛的哀嚎或屠刀。
And a butcher might see the growling of a cattle or a cleaver, butcher's knife.
Yeah.
那我的问题是
My question is
那个净土宗里面有一心念佛，念到一心不乱，持之名号的时候，会有所谓的欲知实质。
那 in the Pure Land tradition practice, if you recite the name of the Abhidhamma Buddha, single-mindedness, then you will be able to foresee the time of your death.
Yeah.
那请问一下，是不是他那个的时候的现象，就是处于在这个业相的地方？
Now, my question is that at that moment, that moment refers to this karma nimitta?
When one foresees the time of one's death?
Right. Does that refer to the sign of karma, the second?
I don't think so, because from what I understand about people who practice in the Pure Land, when they have the foreknowledge of the time of their death, that could occur even like a week before they die, right? So the person might say, I have this foreknowledge that 7 days from now, I'm going to pass away. So this is the kind of knowledge that comes to them through their practice. It's not the object of the death consciousness. Often I think this person will have, they'll say the image of Amitabha Buddha or Kuan Yin Bodhisattva, right? Just at the time they're dying. In that case, I would say it's the image of the Buddha or of Kuan Yin Bodhisattva that is functioning as that would be probably a gati nimitta, a foresign of the destination.
谢谢。
Does that make sense? Okay, I think we have Sam and Joan, okay.
Bhante, can you explain bases and the relation to doors.
Okay. Okay, first let's take the 5 sense doors and the 5 bases. What they actually refer to is identical. They're both referring to what's called the sensitive matter of the 5 sense organs. But the function of a door is different from the function of a base. The door is, well, in a sense, almost literally, it's the opening through which a series of chittas occur. So in the eye door, there occurs, they said, was it 46? We could just look back over this. See, I don't have all of the numbers under my belt, but I'm not worried about that.
Way to rub it in.
What is that?
I said, way to rub it in. It's page 1.
Yeah, it's page 131. This was the guide to number 13, to paragraph 13. So through the eye door, we have 46 chittas. It starts with the 5-door adverting consciousness, then either of the 2 types of eye consciousness, either of the 2 types of receiving consciousness, investigating consciousness, determining consciousness, the whole Javana series, and in the strong types of process, the registration chittas. So all of these are entering through the eye door. So the eye is functioning as the door that allows all of these chittas to occur. The base is just the physical support for a particular type of consciousness. So in that way, the eye base, it's the same thing, the eye sensitivity, but it's functioning as the physical base for the occurrence only of eye consciousness. So eye consciousness is supposed to occur based upon that sensitive matter of the eye. And ear consciousness occurs, or only ear consciousness occurs based on the sensitive matter of the ear. And so for the other 3 sense organs. In the case of the mind now, the bhavanga is the mind door for what is called a mind door cognitive process. We'll come to that tomorrow. But this is a process that is occurring say I've seen this blue and now I'm remembering the blue. In my mind's eye, I'm seeing the blue, remembering it. Okay, so this is a case where the bhavanga is the mind door from which arises a mind door process, which is remembering the blue of the carton. So this mind door process occurs with the bhavanga, the mind door, as its door. But in terms of the base, we would say it's occurring on, okay, whatever you wish. If we want to go with the Abhidhamma commentaries, we'll call it the heart base. If we want to go with modern biology or physiology, we say it's occurring based on the brain or the nervous system, including the brain, whatever. So it's just that which is the physical base for the occurring of that particular type of consciousness. Yeah. So in the immaterial realms, there are no bases because there's no matter there, but there's still the mind door because those beings also have the bhavanga. Yes, okay, good. Oh, I think we had Joan, yeah. Did you have a question now?
Bhante, with reference to the speed with which the active seeders work, how can we interrupt the process sufficiently in order to avoid creating new karma, unwholesome karma?
I mean, given the speed at which
given the speed.
Yeah.
You know, like how can we, is meditation the answer to improving our bhavanga for the next life?
Well, it's the whole process of mental training, not only formal meditation, but also having like the right view, right understanding, using what's called wise attention. All of these tools that we get from the Dharma help us to build up the foundation for changing the direction of our consciousness. In this, not only in the next life, of course, in the next life it works by the good karma that we create here will generate the bhavanga in the next life. But even in this present life, when we devote ourselves to the mental training, it changes the quality of the way our mind works. And so then we experience, more happiness, more tranquility. Yeah, so even though it's all occurring very rapidly, but the good, wholesome, powerful factors are also occurring rapidly when we develop them. Yeah, Yong, yeah.
I don't know if this is, I guess it's all about the bhavanga this week or something, but, or the heart and the brain. But can the bhavanga be, if we go to the jhanas, either the fine or immaterial states, can the bhavanga be somehow we be exposed to, or some sort of is a possibility of that encounter?
You mean to directly experience the bhavanga?
Kind of. I'm just questioning if there's a possibility of that happening or not, or how would you see, how should we view the bhavanga process when we are like in the fine or immaterial states of jhana?
Well, in the jhanas, then the jhanas belong to the process consciousness, not the bhavanga. So when one is in the jhana, then the bhavanga is not occurring. But we're going to deal with the different types of process tomorrow, including the jhanic process. So I think maybe your question will be answered tomorrow. Oh, you, and what is your name now? Ming, okay.
Page 138, and for the 138.
138.
Yes. There are
okay, let me just tell Bowie, who's translating. This is the guide to section 17, but it seems a few paragraphs in. Okay.
Yes, I have a question about the karma and the karma. What?
The karma, the sign of karma?
Yes, the sign of karma.
Yeah.
But the karma sounds to me it's like a wider umbrella. Everything like when we say something, it's always karma, karma. Karma is everything. And then here, what is special about this karma? Karma when in the death process.
Okay, I'm going to, I think the word used is punt your question, because put it off, because we're going to take that topic of how the death process occurs in chapter 5.
Oh,
yeah. It deals in greater detail with it in chapter 5. So we'll come to it there. I think it's time to sit quietly. You have one more. Okay, we give. Okay.
how is nibbana a mental object?
We'll take that later. Actually, that really comes in chapter 9. So you have to come. But I think it'll come also in chapter 4. Yeah. We'll get it also in chapter 4. If if I carry the wrong bag. Okay, so we can go over to the meditation section.